Mr. Marais.
We
are
here, Mr. Honorable Marais.
Mr. Marais, silence. Mr. Marais, silence is golden.
Oh, that's good to see, Mr. Mafanya and Mr. Mutle. Good that I'm not the only one.
No, it always says silence is golden.
Yeah, so where's your parent? Tonight? Mr. Mafanya?
I think that's the mistake he did yesterday. He thought he's my parent. You know?
And now, I mean, you know, see what you've done to him now.
Now I can't even account to him now. You see, I can't account for him because he lied in the public domain, which now is my parent. Look now. How can a child be disciplined more than the parent?
Hey.
Good evening, members. The chairperson is a bit delayed. He has extended his apology that he'll be joining us a few minutes late. But then he has requested Mr. Motle to begin the meeting on his behalf, and he will get us 10 minutes into the meeting.
Good, so we can start. Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening, honorable members. Brian, you will just inform me if there's a quorum so that we can officially start with the meeting.
We are missing 2 members. Could I just give members a call and just remind them and get back to the meeting?
Yes, please.
Yes, yeah. Yes.
Evening, members.
Good evening, Brian.
Yes, Brian.
I have been able to get hold of members. I think it is safe to start now.
Thank you.
Mr. Mutla, are you still there?
I'm muted. I'm talking to myself. Thank you. I was just saying. Can you fly the agenda so that we start with the meeting?
All right. Is it visible?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
we can all see the agenda. Yeah, honorable members, this is the agenda that we are going to move with for today's meeting, which in the main will be consideration and adoption of budget vote reports, vote 23 and 26 respectively, and we will then be adopting outstanding minutes. With that being said, I wish to open this meeting officially and welcome all of you on behalf of the chair, who will then take over from me in 5 or so minutes. We'll then move to the second item, which is apologies. Brian, can you assist? Is there any apology that you have received?
That is correct, yes. We have an apology from the General Olomisa, who's unable to attend due to other engagement. That is the only apology that we have for this meeting.
Chairperson, I want to submit the apology of Mr. Thomas Walters. He has indicated to me just now that he is still tied up in another meeting.
Okay, yeah, apologies are noted. Can we get a mover to grant them those apologies?
I so move acting chair, Mafanya.
Honorable Mafanya, seconder.
I second.
Chair.
Okay. Thank you. There are 2 seconders, Honorable Mare and Honorable Nhwase. We then move to the third item, which is the consideration and adoption of the budget vote reports. Who's going to lead us on this particular item?
Good afternoon, members. It's Velasquez van Rensburg. I'll be going through the DoD and omscore report, and Peter will assist me in doing this report by going through the section on the Castle Control Board. I just want to make sure that my screen is visible on your side.
Yeah, I think on my side it's visible. Yes. I'm not sure, yes. Honorable members.
Absolutely visible.
It is for everybody. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. You can proceed, Willem.
Thank you, Chair. So what we're going to do today is just go through the draft report, and this report contains 3 sections. It's on the DoD, the CCB, and omscore. And after that, Peter will do a second presentation on the separate report for the DMV. The reason why this is in this presentation is this all falls under vote 23 for defense. So In the interest of saving time, I will also just go very briefly or skip certain sections that members might be very familiar with. So this report, as I said, is structured to contain the three overviews. Firstly, we look at the mandate of the committee and how the mandate of the committee in terms of the budget and the process that was followed for the committee to consider the budget. And then the report is divided into two parts. The first part dealing with the Department of Defense, and part B later on you'll see is regarding the CCB and omscore, which is the two entities. To scroll down, and members have received this report, so especially in the first part of this report, I will go very quickly through some aspects. The mandate of the department, that's the constitutional mandate of the department, and the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on DoD planning, and that was also contained in the minister's forward in the APP that she submitted. The third part that members will be familiar with is the Committee 21, the previous budget report, and the recommendations that the committee made in that regard. So we just included this to give a retrospective view of what the committee decided, but that was contained in last year's budget report. Looking further at the Department of Defense annual performance plan for this year, the APP itself was divided into 4 parts, and the next 2 sections just give an overview of the 4 different parts of the APP. It looked at the DoD mandate, strategic focus areas, measuring DoD performance, and then technical indicators or descriptions, which we don't include in this report. Members will be very familiar with the following sections. Specifically part A, looking at the DoD mandate, policies and strategies. So I'm not going to go into detail with that. Suffice to say that it includes in the APP of the department, it includes the 5 milestones under the Defense Review 2015. Section B, the DoD strategic focus and situational analysis. Here we look at the vision, mission of the DoD that members are also familiar with, and the updated 2021 situational analysis. And this is a standard section in the APPs that looks at the external and internal environmental analysis for the department. This is what they present in their APP, but we feel that it's important to just repeat it here to give context to this report as well. And in terms of the external focus areas, the department looked at the political situation that the country finds itself in, the economic situation, social, technological, legal, physical or environmental aspects, and then the military. And perhaps just to stop here for a second, the APP notes that South Africa will be required to maintain a credible defense capability and adopt a posture demonstrating resilience irrespective of the nature of potential conflict, thereby ensuring the following functions, which is effective border safeguarding, execution of international obligations, cooperation of the SAPs for law enforcement and order, support to other government departments, humanitarian and disaster relief operations, and contribution to national cyber resilience. In terms of the internal environmental analysis, here the APP of the department looked at the deployment of the SANDF, human resources dimension, and we'll get to this in a bit later in terms of the compensation of employees, the financial dimension, which will also look at the decreasing budget of the Defence Force, logistics dimension, and information technology dimension. Lastly, the section that I include in the APP looks at the measuring the DoD performance. And here you can measure the DoD's performance in the APP against broader government plans, specifically the National Development Plan, as well as the Medium-Term Strategic Framework, where the Department of Defense contributes to a number of these priority areas, specifically MTSF 6, Social Cohesion and Safer Communities, and MTSF 7, A Better Africa and a Better World. The next slide also just contains some of the key strategic focus areas of the Minister of Defence, the Secretary for Defence, and the Chief of Defence Force. And this table tried to show how these priorities of them interlink with one another. To get to the aspect that we're looking at tonight, in terms of financial year going ahead, first we look back at the previous financial year, an overview of the 2020-21 financial year. And this was just as an introduction to the report to say, how did we get to the situation where we are now from the previous year, and what did expenditure look like? And the information here was extracted from the previous quarterly reports that the department has submitted to Parliament. At the bottom here, you'll see that at the end of the third quarter, the key issues to look at here is the 24 billion rand spending on compensation of employees, payment on capital assets, which was also slightly lower than projected, and goods and services also lower than projected. Members may recall that this was a difficult year in terms of expenditure for the Defence Force, mainly due to their planning being undermined by the COVID-19 pandemic. So this section was just to give you an update of where we were almost at the end of the previous financial year. And then the budget analysis, looking at how the situation will go forward. What is in the annual performance plan of the Department of Defence for the year going forward? And the first section here provides an overview of the expenditure that is planned. And you will see that the budget for the Department of Defence is 46.269 billion, which is significantly lower than the adjusted appropriation of 54 billion for the previous year. So to summarize, in the table included here, if you look at the reduction from the previous year where they received 54 billion, going down by almost 8 billion rand this year, that is a significant decrease for the defence capability. If you then adjust this for inflation, where we used CPI inflation, you see an 18% reduction in the allocation for the Defence Force, and that is quite a significant reduction. So with this reduced allocation that the Department of Defence will get, what are the key cost drivers? What are the key aspects that they will spend funds on? And the big one here, as has been the case in recent years, is compensation of employees, which is a key cost driver. Compensation of employees decreases from 30.9 billion rand to 29 billion rand. And members will recall during the presentation that this was indicated, this is the amount indicated from National Treasury, but that the Department of Defence actually expects to spend in roughly 34 billion rand on compensation of employees. So there's going to be a significant shortfall in compensation of employees, and there is a recommendation in this report in that regard, but this is of concern that there's likely not enough funds for the compensation of employees. Another key cost driver relates to contractors, which was interesting that if you look at the previous financial year compared to this financial year, contractor spending increases from 2.1 billion to 3.1 billion roughly. So roughly an extra billion rand being spent on contractors in this year. And there wasn't real clarity on what exact contractors that will be spent on. And the other part of the other broad part to look at, Chair and members, is the reduction in key economic classifications. So overall, there's been a reduction of nearly 8 billion rand for the Department of Defence. So where do we see this reduction taking place? And this is in the following sections. They showed significant reductions. If you look at fuel, oil, and gas, this decreases from just over 1 billion to 780 million. If you look at food and food supplies, this decreases from 1.4 billion to 1.1 billion. And that is important because this speaks to the conditions of service of the members of the Defence Force, the food and food supplies that they receive. Departmental agencies and accounts, The main reduction here relates to the special defense account that was discussed last week, which decreases from 5.2 billion to 1 billion. That is significant reduction. And then lastly, the high cost of administering the DoD. This was also discussed last week, but we included it here. Even though this cost decreases over the medium term, it's still a significant cost compared to other departments. For the coming year, the cost of the ministry is 125 million rand. And this doesn't compare well to other departments where you, for example, have police that has a 60 million rand spending, or National Treasury that only spends 4.4 million rand on its ministry. You will recall, members, that during the meeting, the Minister of Defense did indicate that the reason for this high spending is due to a section of SAMS that is administered through the ministry, and that probably explains this expenditure. But it may be of value to dig a bit deeper into this to get an actual breakdown of the ministry's cost, because it is quite high. The next section I will also not dwell on. That deals with National Treasury's feedback to the committee on previous recommendations, and in short, summarizing the four responses to the BRRR recommendations. It simply said that there is no funding available for border security or exit mechanisms and so forth. The following sections, Chair and members, the section 8 is quite long. That looks a bit more in depth at each program, and I'll just scan through the various programs. Each program is broken down in two, firstly looking at the budget analysis and then looking at the planned performance for the year. In terms of the first program, that's the administration program, we can look at the economic classifications. Here questions can be raised or were raised about spending in advertising that is set to increase from 38 to 75 million rand, travel and subsistence increases, and property payments increases. Now, in most programs, you would note an increase in travel and subsistence specifically. And the reason for this is that there was much less travel and subsistence in the previous year, mainly due to COVID-19. And this then increases back to its normal levels in the coming year as things normalize in the department. Overall, this program stays relatively stable in its planned expenditure. You will see that it's got an increase of 69 million rand, and in real terms, if you adjust that for inflation, that is only a 2% reduction, which you will see in comparison to other programs. That is a very small reduction. In terms of the performance planning, this relates mostly to the submission of plans that the department will submit during the coming year, the number of reserve force days, which stays roughly the same as previous years, and the number of defense attaché offices that it wants to maintain at 44. Program 2 is an important program looking at force deployment. In this program, important to note, you'll see contractors, the cost for contractors in this program increases from 247 to 276 million. But that increase in contract. Yes.
Chairperson, if I may, I've just noted there in the first sentence, you talk about a significant increase in the first line. The first line. No, right at the top. The allocation for the force employments increased significantly. And I think that's probably a decrease, eh?
Yes.
I apologize. I just saw that.
Thank you.
Noted.
Thank you, Mr. Maria. I'll keep that correction in there. Thank you for that. Yes, you are correct. That was a major decrease. And that's why it's important to look at this increase in contractors and measure that increase against the decrease in the overall allocation to program 2. You'll see that this decreases by 25%, but again, it is mostly related to the COVID-19 operations of last year, which won't take place in this year. And that's why you see a decrease in the allocation for sub-program 5, which is support to the people, where there's a major, almost 1 billion rand decrease in the allocation. In terms of performance planning, the Force Employment Program has set 11 targets, of which 5 are not elaborated on due to the information being classified. And the targets are generally in line with the previous years that was set by the department. Program 3, Landward Defense, this is the biggest program of the department. And this, if you look at the budget, you'll see that there is also a significant decrease of around 2 billion rand in this budget. And when adjusted for inflation, that is a 16% reduction. That is quite a big reduction for the biggest program of the Department of Defense. In terms of performance, only 4 performance targets are set for this program, and the target related to the percentage of combat-ready capabilities available to the SANDF, as well as the target related to the joint force employment requirements, and these remain classified. And then there's 2 other targets, percentage compliance with the DoD training targets, which is at 80%, and number of learning opportunities. To move on, Program 4, Air Defense, again, if we move to the budget for air defense is also reduced by about 1.5 billion. And as I mentioned during the previous presentation, of significant concern here is the when you adjust it for inflation, 61% reduction in the allocation to the air combat capability. And this speaks to the nuts and bolts of the military. If you look at the air combat capability and the naval capabilities that we will get to, this is quite a significant reduction. Similarly, in terms of their performance planning, this remains the same, although some of the targets are classified. Also, if you look at the Maritime Defense Program, Program 5, again, there's a reduction of 680 million rand to their allocation. And the major loss here is in terms of the maritime combat capability that has, after inflation, a 30% reduction in its allocation. So if you view these 2 programs together, you see major reductions in air combat and maritime combat capabilities. Performance planning, same as in the previous program, some of them are classified and the targets relate.
Well, Adam, you're gone now. Chairperson, is it only me or is Adam gone?
No, I think he's gone.
He's gone.
I think, yeah, but he is disconnected, Honorable Murray.
Okay,
I'm not sure whether Peter can. Is Peter in the meeting? I mean, yeah,
Yes.
Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you take over? But he's back. I see he's back in the meeting. Madam?
Chair, apologies, my internet just disconnected for a second. Can I carry on again?
Yeah, you can carry on. This technology is not reliable. You are forgiven.
Thank you, Chair. Is the screen visible on your side again?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's perfectly fine.
Yes.
Okay. To carry on and maybe quickly run through the last 3 programs, this was the overview that we provide of the military health services. And again, here, if you see the reduction in military health services of 770 million rand, significantly, there is no allocation in this year for the military health maintenance sub-program. In terms of the program 6 performance planning, only 4 targets is set for the program, of which 3 are considered classified. Only the target related to training is not classified, and that they set the target of 648 learning opportunities. Defense intelligence, the next program, defense intelligence also has a significant cut in its budget of 390 million rand, which is on a very small budget already. They've got previously had a 1.1 billion rand budget, and that decreases then. And the program mostly affected is the operations sub-program, which we'll see as a 400 million rand reduction. So it moves from 640 million to 234 million. In terms of the performance planning, they plan to conduct or complete 5,000 betting decisions in the year and release 448 defense intelligence products. The last program is general support, and this general support budget, if we move to the budget, also decreases significantly by 1.4 billion rand. And most significantly, there is no allocation for technology development during this year. As you can see, there no technology development allocation, whereas previously it received 460 million rand for technology development. And in terms of the performance planning for this program, there's about 6 targets set here, and the targets are generally in line with the previous years. So, given all this, Chair and members, given all this overview that we provided, the overview, I went through it quite quickly because it is aligned with the previous presentations we did, and it is aligned with the information from National Treasury and in the APP. So then based on this information you received, and more so based on the discussions that you had on the 5th of May with the department, the following observations were made by members. We'll run through the observations quickly, and then some recommendations that can flow from that for your input. Firstly, members expressed the need for more thorough oversight of classified information and noted the need for the Minister of Defence to inform the Portfolio Committee of or the Joint Standing Committee of Defence in writing when questions cannot be answered due to security concerns. This will allow the relevant committee to apply for a closed meeting to conduct oversight of the relevant aspects. And I think members will recall that discussion on the way forward regarding classified information. Secondly, members expressed concern about the ongoing increase in the proportion of the defence budget allocated to compensation of employees. Members will recall that this was it's at 63%, if we take into consideration what National Treasury allocated for compensation of employees. Members then noted that this results in very limited funds remaining available for military operations, and specifically for the acquisition of new and modern equipment to maintain a military force. Thirdly, the committee noted with concern the information presented by the DoD indicating a projected shortfall in the compensation of employees, and questioned how this will be funded in the coming financial year. The next one, the committee again expressed the need for funding of the mid-life upgrades of the SA Navy's primary vessels. Next, the members noted the significant increase of nearly 1 billion rand in spending on contractors during the 21-22 financial year compared to the previous financial year. The committee questioned the high cost of the ministry in the department, but it noted the minister's indication that the medical support systems for principals, which was located under the military health services, has been shifted to the ministry program. Members will recall that discussion with the minister. Next, the committee again confirmed the need for border safeguarding in South Africa, especially given the current developments in Mozambique. The committee affirmed its concerns around the funding for Project Hoefyster, and noted the minister's indication that an engagement with cabinet is scheduled regarding the NEL, and which may provide a direction on the future of the project. Members expressed concern around the major reduction in funding for fuel and the impact that this will have on flying hours and sea hours in the Air Force and the Navy respectively. I think Ms. Beekes still had a discussion with the department in that regard. And lastly, given the current fiscal constraints faced by the department, members expressed the need for discussions around the potential requirement for an alternative funding model to keep the SANDF afloat. And Chair, I think you raised that point. So based on these observations from members and these discussions that took place during that meeting, what are the recommendations that can flow from this for your input, members? Firstly, the Minister of Defence should indicate in writing to the Portfolio Committee or the Joint Standing Committee on Defence, whichever may be relevant, whenever response to a written or verbal question cannot be divulged due to security reasons, in order for the committees to plan, schedule closed meetings to address such issues. Secondly, the DoD, and this will assist the committee going forward in its oversight mandate. The DoD should provide the committee with a written plan before 30 June 2021. This date, members, included to make it possible for the committee to use the information in the next term. So, sorry, just to start with that again, the DoD should provide the committee with a written plan before 30 June 2021 on how it will approach compensation of employees in the coming financial year, including the following: the final allocation from National Treasury for compensation of employees, the projected shortfall on compensation of employees for the year, how the DoD plans to fund the shortfall in compensation of employees, including any envisaged shifts in or between programs and in terms of economic classifications, the projected shortfall in compensation of employees over the MTF, medium-term plans to bring compensation of employees' expenditure in line with National Treasury allocations, an update on plans to curb expenditure on compensation of employees related to the high number of supernumeraries, and efforts to curb compensation of employees related to lengthy suspension with full pay. These last two points, members, stem from previous engagements of the committee, but may be relevant if we request this information from the department. Next, the committee, and this is the committee's undertaking based on the observations, the committee undertakes to have further engagements with the DoD and National Treasury on the funding for border safeguarding efforts. That's an important one, perhaps because National Treasury rejected Parliament's proposal in the BRRR for additional funds. Next, the DoD should, on a quarterly basis, update the committee on its plans to refit the primary SA Navy vessels, those midlife upgrades. Next, the DoD should, before 30 June 2021, provide the committee with a detailed, project-specific written breakdown on the projected spending on contractors for the year, as well as the reasons for the significant planned increase in spending compared to the previous year. Quarterly feedback on the expenditure should also be included in upcoming quarterly reports to the committee. Next, while the committee accepts that the inclusion of medical services for the principals in the ministry sub-program, it increases the expenditure, and the DoD is urged to review whether any savings cannot be incurred in this program. In this regard, the DoD should provide the committee before 30 June 2021 with a written breakdown of the ministry spending in terms of sub-programs as well as economic classifications. A breakdown like this would assist the committee in really engaging and seeing how money is spent within the ministry, given that it is one of the most expensive ministries in the country. Next, the committee undertakes to schedule a follow-up meeting with DoD and omscore on the outcome of the cabinet engagement on the future of the NEL as it relates to Project Uveister. This follow-up will be correlated with the Joint Standing Committee of Defence. Next, second last one, the committee urges the DoD to repurpose any possible savings to the operational aspects of the DoD, specifically fuel and other operational needs that negatively affect the attaining of flying and sea hour targets. And lastly, the committee undertakes to continue discussions with the DoD and National Treasury on a potential requirement for an alternative funding model to keep the SANDF afloat. Chair, I don't know if you want to go through that one first and take any recommendations, or if you want to carry on with these entities as well.
Yeah, I think let's proceed with entities, and then we will have a discussion on all of them.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Peter Daniels will take us through the next section. I will scroll through it, Peter, so if you need me to move faster, just let me know.
Okay, thank you, Chair, members. From page 25 to page 33 is basically the Castle Control Board. Members would be aware that myself and William has presented, our analysis of both the APP and the budget to the committee on the 4th, and then on the 5th, the council themselves also made a presentation, on their budget and APP to the committee. So, Chair, if you don't mind, I'm not going to go through every part of it. I'll just continue and skip through certain of these sections. There, Chair, on page 25, it's basically the introduction and just saying there what are the objectives of the council. There are 3 listed there. The second one there just relates to the challenge that they have because of COVID-19 pandemic. Because if there are no tourists, no venue hiring, it means there are no income. So a huge impact on the council. And then in the chairperson's forward, there is now the chairperson of the board, Lieutenant General Mbuli. There he just noted some strategic risks, and I think some of these risks are very important to all of us because we know they are struggling. And the first one there is the going concern status, and that has also been noted by the AG. The next one relates to marketing and promotion. And obviously, they need to try and other means to advertise and market the castle to try and get people to come to the castle. And another issue is the safety and security. They've mentioned vandalism and also that they are trying to erect a perimeter fence. So those are the kinds of things we will follow up. And then on the next page on top, one will note that the clean audit outcome, because it has been said before, it's a very small entity, it's a small budget, and we don't expect them to have a lot of qualifications with regards to the audit. Chair, there in paragraph 4, there we just start talking about the annual performance plan for 2021-22. Next, we just relate to their mandate. We talk about the strategic focus in 4.2, and then 4.2.1 is basically the situation analysis. And I think the most important thing there is in the second line there where they say, if there's no access to the castle, if there's no tourists, if there are no events, no filming, no work, it means there's no income. And then with regards to the external environment analysis, they are just mentioning various other stakeholders that are also involved with them. And then internal environmental analysis, there I think one of the main things is the going concern status and to get tourists and people to come and use the venue there at the castle. There on top of page 27, one of the challenges that they have is that other people are also, institutions are also using the castle, and they would like to operate the castle, the whole precinct on their own. So there are challenges in that regard. But I think they are moving on that because they say they're going to speak to the board as well as the executive authority. So the next part, the 4.3, is just how they measure their performance. 4.31, they're measuring the outcome. There is listed the outcome indicators, the baseline, and the 5-year targets. And these are things, Jay, that we've discussed over the last 2 years. Last year, we discussed the strategic 5-year plan. And we are aware of what are some of those targets and indicators that they've indicated. If you look here at paragraph 5, there we just talk about their programs. And with your indulgence here, I'm not going to cover all of these in detail. There firstly is program 1, administration, the various targets they've set for themselves. And then program 2, maintenance and conservation. There are the various targets. Program 3 is the maximizing the castle tourism potential. And then program 4, there on page 29, is the increase the public access to the castle. If we then look at the page 30, paragraph 6 is program resource considerations. And there we can see that they now actually have been allocated an amount of 9.4 million for this financial year. And we can see how that is broken up into the 4 programs, around 8,450 rand for the first program, 606,000 for conservation management, 85,000 for tourism management, and then for public access, 243,000. Chair, there on the next part, we're just saying, you know, how these various programs actually increase or decrease, and there we note that the only program that actually increased with the allocation is administration, with around 11.61% in real terms. The other programs all show a decrease, and the biggest one there is tourism management with about 48.37% decrease, and public access with around 35.93%. So the next one is basically just to indicate you know, how these changes actually from the previous financial this year, what were the changes in percent allocation? And there we note a positive change for program 1, and all the other 3 have basically a reduction in the program. If we look then further, Chair, in program 6, paragraph 6.1, it is there, program 1, administration, and the main issue that we basically point out there is that because, you know, as with many other institutions, you know, the cost COE compensation of employees is normally quite high. Here we also see in this program is high, and because they are employing around 18 people. The next one is just about conservation management. You can see there's a slight decrease, you know, from the previous year, from 750,000 to around 660,000. The next one, 6.3, is program 3, tourism management, and there we can see it also decreased with around 73,000. Public access, there we can also note they have an allocation of about 243,000, and it actually decreased with 121,000. Chair, one of the important things that we always take the council on is with regards to revenue generation, because they have a revenue optimization plan. And this was supposed to generate around 2.5, the increase, you know, over the years from 2018 with around 2.5 billion. Obviously, it didn't happen from 2019 because of COVID, but that is one thing that we also want them to actually try and implement whenever they can, and to get more feet into council. The next thing with regards to revenue generation is that they are pondering to increase the fees because the fees haven't been raised for a long time. Chair, paragraph 8 is just the various risks that they have there, and there in the middle we note, you know, one of the main risks is the inability to remain a going concern, and the next one is the decline in the financial resources, and then also they have insufficient human resources capacity, which basically hampers their endeavors to fulfill their core mandate. And then, as I said earlier, you know, they want to be the sole entity to control the whole precinct, and they have challenges in that regard. Something mentioned earlier also in the beginning is the security in and around the castle, and then the last one there is just with regards to a lack of adherence to a manual and policies and procedures to regulate. So that was the second last one, and then the last one is just compromising the image of the castle, you know, that's through malice and abuse of its spaces and amenities, and they have a risk mitigation there, and basically saying that the executive director will actively engage with the stakeholders and the media. Chair, for the important part of this meeting is basically the observations that members have made with regards to the castle. There are 3 main ones that we've picked up. Members are welcome to add. Firstly, we commended the castle, the Department of Defense, for their continued support of the CCP, and for making available around 5.5 million to the entity by April 2021. And the board is encouraged to intensify its efforts to maximize its ability to generate income during the current pandemic, which is projected at around 2 million rand. The next one, Chair, is say the committee once again implored the council or the CCB to address the concerns of the Auditor General, and to this extent, the appointment of the 2 interns were welcome, and it was inquired for how long the interns will be employed, and it was indicated that the CCB will attempt to employ them both permanently because they are graduates with the relevant qualification. The third observation, given that they have around 19 employees dependent on it, the committee actually expressed its appreciation that they assist these employees, and their extended family to sustain themselves during these difficult times. Chair, there, paragraph 9 on page 33, it is just the recommendations related to the observations. And the first one is there that the committee recommends that the CCB should attempt not to rely on the DoD for funding during crisis, but it should also endeavor to maximize its revenue generation through its mandated activities, as well as innovative new means to generate income. And then the committee will monitor its efforts to generate its own revenue. Secondly, the CCB should submit a short mid-year report to the committee on income generation as well as expenses to enable the committee to track efforts by the council to generate alternative revenue. The next one, the committee noted the appointment of the 2 interns to assist with addressing the audit queries, but stressed that given the size of the entity's budget and the personnel available, that it expect an improvement in this regard. That one, the committee should explain to this council should explain to the committee how it will make provision for the 2 interns, and especially how it plans to retain them, because they are graduates and the entity has lost 3 managers and 2 other staff members recently. The last one, the committee noted the invitation extended to the committee to hold a meeting at the council in order to expose members to the rich history of the Castle of Good Hope. And the committee then said we will explore options in this regard. Thank you, Chair. That is my input with regards to the Council Control Board.
Chair, I'll go on with the report. The last section of the report deals with omscore. So we went through the DoD Council Control Board, and the last section of this report deals with omscore. And again, I will not go in detail through the start of this report, but here we look at the mandate of omscore, which is to supply the SANDF in terms of defense material, and objective of omscore as per the omscore Act. The strategic focus areas, and here we included some notes from the introductory statement of the board chairperson, and how omscore is affected by the reduction specifically of the special defense account. We also included the omscore's view on the environmental scan, where they looked at their external environment and internal environment, similar to the Department of Defense in their annual report. And specifically here, just to point out, in their external environmental analysis, in terms of the military, they know that the military will have to prepare for a deployment environment where the distinction between military and other containment measures become increasingly blurred. Of particular importance will be the SANF's role in border safeguarding, as well as the need for technological means of securing the country's borders. And if you see that focus, it is of concern that there is no allocation, for example, this year in the Department of Defense's budget for technology in one of the sub-programs, technology development, and also the reduction in the special defense account. In terms of internal environment, from omscore side, the factors that they identified includes the economic recession, defense budget allocation, which is decreasing, corporate governance, accountability, national cost-containing measures, and service delivery improvement. We also included omscores just to show the correlation with other government plans. We included omscore's contribution, both in terms of the National Development Plan and also in terms of the MTSF. Then in terms of the budget analysis, we started by providing an overview of the income and expenditure for the coming year. Just to point out some of the key issues, perhaps skipping to 3.2, answering the question, how is omscore funded? It is mainly funded through a government transfer, which is 1.2 billion rand for the year. It also generates sales, which is expected to be around 209 million rand for the year. Other sources of income around 65 million rand, and then recoveries at 23 million rand. And back to the previous section, or 3.1, the main cost drivers for omscore. It's very personnel heavy in its mandate. So the direct personnel costs is 1.127 billion, and this is slightly lower than the previous year. External service costs of 102 million rand, water and electricity 46 million rand, S&T for 38 million rand, and indirect personnel costs such as retirement funds and so forth, it's 32.6 million rand. Some additional financial indicators were also indicated here, that the 4 divisions of omscore, or the 3 divisions, omscore corporate, you're looking at they're planning to achieve a surplus of 47 million rand during the year. Research and development, that division of omscore is looking at a loss of 45 million rand during the upcoming year, while the omscore dockyard is looking at a surplus of 400,000 rand. So in total, if you take those 3 divisions together, omscore as a group is looking at a surplus of 3.1 million rand expected for the coming year. On the next page, we just provided a quick breakdown of some of the key expenses that they will, key additional expenses they will focus on here. Aspects such as office equipment, computer equipment, office furniture, computer software, which is quite a significant expense, and buildings and infrastructure. These are just some of the aspects that they will spend money on in the coming year. Also, we included this table to show in correlation with the previous year. This is the information. It's a different perspective on the budget, but this is provided by National Treasury, and it breaks down the budget of omscore, or the planned expenditure of omscore according to specific sub-programs. And here you will see the biggest decrease is in terms of logistics support, where they expect to spend 150 million rand during the year instead of 200 million rand in the previous year. Other aspects that was focused on, or that is prominent in the corporate plan of omscore, is the sweating of assets. omscore planned to sweat assets as a means of raising funds, and previously they indicated that they have 4 properties that they wish to sweat in and around Pretoria and in the Northern Cape, but there wasn't specific further information on how they plan to do this. In terms of personnel, the personnel, total personnel of omscore is expected to decrease slightly from around 1,600 to 1,500 in this year. And perhaps there's further information required as a recommendation in this regard as well about how this will be managed. Selected performance indicators. Here, Chair and members, we just included a list of the performance indicators for omscore during the year. And interestingly enough, most of the performance indicators remain roughly the same as in the previous years. And this is something that the committee perhaps in future could look at, whether some of these targets don't need adjustment. In terms of strategic output, section 6.2, these costs were already touched on, but it is the targets in terms of strategic outcomes for the year. And here we already looked at revenue generation, cost management, an efficient and effective that should be delivery system, stakeholder management, and certain targets that were set in that regard as well. And as Peter said, getting to the important part for this meeting where members should make an input, the committee observations that we picked up during the engagement with omscore. Firstly, members expressed significant concern around the decline of the NEL and the way in which this affects not only the SANF but also omscore. The committee was informed that there are ongoing engagements between omscore and the NEL to assist the entity. Next, the committee noted with concern the delays in the finalization of omscore audit of the NEL's intellectual property. The committee was informed that while significant progress has been made in the audit, delays are due to the fact that some personnel at the NEL are not present at work due to financial difficulties faced by the entity. Third, members expressed concern around the state of Silver Mine Naval Base and the impact this has on the SANDF's radar capability. The committee was informed that omscore has a very capable radar division and assists the DoD in this regard, despite budget constraints. The radar capability has improved its service delivery to be more cost-effective by making use of internal engineering capabilities and what omscore called smart buying. Next, the committee welcomed the fact that despite delays, omscore is making progress in obtaining business from other government departments, including the SA Police Service. The committee expressed concern around the delays in the midlife upgrades of the SA Navy's primary vessels and the potential financial impact this can have on the omscore dockyard. Next, the committee expressed reservation about the fact that the DoD still owed funds to AB Logistics for travel arrangements. However, the committee also welcomed the adjustment of the business model that allows for the DoD to make an advance payment to AB Logistics against which the division can draw funds. Second last, members reflected on previous concerns around the payment of bonuses and increases at omscore in previous years and the financial implication thereof. And lastly, members questioned the lack of outreach and social responsibility activities in the Western Cape during the coming year. However, the committee was informed that budgetary constraints affect such activities and that there were several activities in the Western Cape in recent years. And flowing from these observations, Chair and members, the following recommendations are proposed, to which members are welcome to add or take away. Firstly, the committee undertakes the right to the Minister of Public Enterprises to urgently assist omscore to finalize the audit of intellectual property at the NEL. The committee will further request Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Enterprises to provide oversight of the matter in addition to the oversight provided by this committee. This recommendation, members, there's quite an urgency around this matter of the intellectual property at the NEL because it risks that this intellectual property lands in the hands of other developers which may be outside South Africa. Second, the committee undertakes to schedule a follow-up meeting with the DoD and omscore on the outcome of the cabinet engagement and the future of the NEL. Feedback will also be requested on the engagements between omscore and the NEL. This follow-up will be correlated with the Joint Standing Committee of Defence. Third, the committee urges omscore to continue to provide quality and cost-effective support to the SANDF in the maintenance and development of its radar system. The next one on the next page, the committee welcomes the fact that omscore is finding ways of generating additional revenue, including through the provision of work for other government departments. omscore should provide the committee with a written 2021-22 mid-year report on its efforts to generate additional revenue and specifically the projected revenue per government department. The report should also clarify omscore's efforts to sweat assets as a means of revenue generation. Members, normally there's no such mid-year report, but by requesting this, it will allow the committee to just keep an eye on whether the sweating of assets and generating of funds at omscore is paying dividends. The next one, the committee urges omscore and the DoD to finalize the consolidation of accounts as it relates to outstanding payments from the DoD to AB Logistics. The third last one, the committee urges omscore to specifically, the committee urges omscore and specifically the omscore board to make responsible decisions around bonuses and increases given the current financial constraints under which omscore functions. Second last, omscore should provide the committee with a mid-year report on the uptake of severance packages by its personnel, including the envisaged savings emanating from this, the qualifications of personnel lost, and succession planning put in place to ensure the critical skills are not lost. This recommendation is based on an observation by the CEO of omscore that they have put forth severance options of severance packages, and this will allow the committee to see if this results in savings, but also to monitor that this won't result in significant skills losses at omscore. And lastly, Cognizant of the financial constraints, omscore is urged to continue with outreach and social responsibility initiatives as far as possible, especially in areas where omscore has facilities. Chair, that's the end of this lengthy report dealing with the DoD, the CCB, and omscore. And I'll hand over to you if there's any input from yourself or the members. We can facilitate those changes.
Colleagues, no, thank you very much. I don't know what happened to Honorable Mutle. Honorable Mutle, are you still on the platform? It doesn't look like he's still on the platform. Colleagues, thank you very much. I wish to thank him for holding the fort whilst I was still was running late. Colleagues, the presentations are now on the table for discussion. All right, let's go right up to DoD. Let me just, in the meantime, I'm looking on the board to see who has raised the hand. I'll start with you, Mr. Murray.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you to the presentations, again, of incredibly high standard. And one cannot else but to really submit sincere appreciation for great work done by our staff. My first question, Chairperson, and maybe it's just a semantic one, but on page 20, I just wanted to know that second sentence on page 20, under 8.8.1, is that correct at program level or a program level? At I suppose is correct, eh? I just wanted to make sure about that. So it specifically refers to technology development at the program level. So if I'm correct, then that at is correct. Then at page 23, I just wanted to ask a question with regard to
you communicate, man. I'm being held up.
Mr. Moodley.
Tabo?
That's what you was chairing now, sir.
Tabo? Thank you. Please move.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm muted. Sorry, Chair.
Sure, no problem.
Chairperson, on the last point on page 23, I just wanted to ask, I mean, the point is correct, but you will recall that we became aware of the concerns in the SAD-NDF on the NELS as OEM support to the Rayfalk Oryx, the C-130, the Gripens, and the SAMLs, whether we can include that in that follow-up meeting of omscore and the NEL, which deals with omscore and DoD that deals with the consideration of cabinet by the NEL's future. That is quite relevant, and it deals with the NEL's responsibility, and it affects both omscore and specifically the SANDF. So that's just a request from mine, or whether we can consider that. And then on page 39, let me just quickly get to page 39. On page 39, I just wanted to check with Wilhelm on that personnel information. That on that first sentence, it refers to 1,379, but in the column below it is 1,498. Where is that in that first sentence? The total strength is reflected in the table below and comes to 1,397, which is lower than the projected 1,599.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. I will maybe take out the reference in the beginning. The table as it's reflected there is from the omscore corporate plan, and the initial figure I provided up here is provided from National Treasury. And we did have a section in here that clarity should be sought on the difference between personnel figures from omscore and National Treasury. So I think what we should do, my suggestion to yourself and other members for the purpose of this report, perhaps I should remove the National Treasury figures and rather use just omscore's corporate plan figures.
No, or just a qualification that there's not confusion in terms of what are we referring to. That's because that first sentence referred to the table below. So that's where maybe my confusion came in. That there's no correlation of that.
All right, I'll just.
Then, Chairperson, on page 43, in that recommendations, the first one I want to ask is on AB logistics. I think in the meeting we indicated that maybe we need a report on AB logistics activities and operations. Whilst I see that we're basically only taking note of what they are doing and requesting them to make payments to the DO or to AB logistics. So a question of mine is just whether we can request them to submit a report on the operations and activities. And then the last one that I want to make a question on is the committee urges omscore and specifically the omscore board on decisions, bonuses, and increases. You will recall last year they have confirmed that although they played like the words with semantic words, they have indicated that this year there will be no increases in bonuses. So maybe just a report from them whether bonuses and increases will be paid given what they have. And I think Willem, last year's ones will be somewhere in a report from them. So they should just maybe report on that. Chairperson, otherwise outstanding reports, outstanding observations, and I think the way that the staff has put this together, so outstanding. Thank you very much. That's all from my side. And I mean, if depending on other committee members, you have my proposal for acceptance of these reports. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Murray.
Yeah, I'm seconding Chair in advance.
Oh, Thabo, I took over when you disappeared.
That's the way that we operate.
No, Chair, I got cut off and I've sent you a message to say.
Oh, I see. That I must take over.
Yes.
Thank you so much, but all right. So I hear you, Thabo, but let me just do these observations. I don't know what is your instruction from the research side of things. Are we not going to be criticized for comparing budget to adjusted budget and not budget to budget? Because we're not comparing the same thing. This budget that we're passing will also be adjusted, whichever way, down or up. That is around October, November. For example, when you record that the budget was 54, is now down to down to
46, 47.
46, yes. Yeah, 46 billion. The 54 was, and then you are reflecting, that it's the budget is lower, is 7.9 lower than the previous budget. But in reality, if you are comparing a budget to budget, the budget would be about, I think, 4 billion rand lower, if I'm not mistaken. And all the sub-programs that are reflecting significant decreases, yes, they will still be recording decreases, but they will not be as significant as they appear on the table. And they look significant when you are comparing the budget to adjusted budget. So in that way, it doesn't give us it distorts the picture a bit, unless you had the two figures. And that when you compare budget to budget, it gives you this. But if you compare adjusted, the current budget to adjusted, then this is the outcome.
Jefferson, can I make a suggestion in that regard, with your indulgence? Yeah. Why don't Balaram just add another column where he reflects on the budget, those that to start with the green and then the columns? Can we not put in, the first column, original 2020-21 budget, and then that one is the adjusted budget? So at least then you've got the original budget, the adjusted budget, and this year's budget that you have got there. I don't know, maybe that will give us a more context of what is discussed there.
Yes, I think so. What is your take, Willem? And so that at least we reflect that as well, to mitigate against any criticism that may come our way.
Chair, I think that's a good suggestion, and you're correct. A lot of the decreases, the adjustment mid-year last year was a lot due to COVID and the response of the Defence Force. So I did indicate in some cases that the decreases or increases would see a return to normal spending levels almost. But I think it's a relevant proposal from Mr. Marais. I will include those columns there in in every program and sub-program. And then I think I will also just add a little sentence somewhere in the beginning to qualify the data and how the data is used.
Thank you very much. And then the next point relates to the ministerial budget, and that you have correctly captured it, that it shows a significant increase. You see, and that we would need a report by 30th June, giving us a breakdown on how this budget will be spent. You see, the problem is that unless you see this budget, the way I understood the presentation by the minister, was that it is what you call this? It's demand driven. So you spend as the expenditure is demand driven. So you would not have the information or ahead of it being spent. So the information we get by the 30th June, it will tell us absolutely nothing, and even if they try to give us some information as to how it will be spent, in my view, that will be a sheer thumbsuck. And unless we make a note that the committee will monitor the expenditure on against this sub-program, and you know,
if I can add,
yes, sir.
On that point, I think the things that you've mentioned is very valid. However, even when someone is planning to spend, there must be some explanation for the significant increase in the expenditure from 97.2 to 125.5, and maybe when they do explain that in terms of a feedback report and breaking that down, that it makes sense. At the moment, it seems like it is one of the highest ministries with the highest cost. But when they do planning, and I accept for the fact that some of this is demand driven, however, they provide for an increase. And I think there must just be an explanation on what is driving the provision for the increase. That one just understand that from a financial planning point of view.
No. How it was explained, Mr. Mare, is a function shift. It's not that the money is an increase as we initially thought it was. They moved the function. Maybe what we should ask is a breakdown of the function that was moved from
Correct.
where it was to the ministry.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. That's certainly part of it. As part of the explanation is that movement and that shift.
Yes.
That might explain everything. It might explain a little bit of that.
No, we won't monitor it. We won't monitor it.
Yeah,
I don't want us to ask for information that is not readily available. It's all you'll get is just the historic expenditure, how they have been. They increase it. It's usually on an item like this. They put a baseline, and then they move the money up or down against the baseline because it's demand driven. So you will not get what it would be spent on until it has been spent. That's my information. But find a way of couching that so that we see and we see what the money will be spent on, and we are able to monitor it.
Chair, would it be sufficient in the way I changed it there in the red, so that we include the word planned spending for the upcoming year, but also, as you noted, the report should also include a breakdown of the function shift from the SAMs to the ministry, and that will provide historic context.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm happy with that. And then let's go to the last point. Is on the entities omscore. You see, with omscore, my great difficulty is that, is the cost effectiveness of the entity, given the dwindling acquisition budget. And, in the past, they will have a rand. You'll see what a rand was what a rand was achieving. For example, I'm just making this example. If the acquisition budget that it was 10 billion rand and their budget is 1 billion rand, you can see the ratio is 1:10. In other words, they're using 1 rand to spend 10 rand. Now, when there is no budget, acquisition budget, or is reduced to 2 billion rand, right? I said if initially it's 1 billion rand and to spend 10 billion rand is 1:10. But now if it is reduced to 2 billion rand, then you have 1 billion rand to spend 2 rand. Then it talks to the cost effectiveness of the entity.
Absolutely.
And I think, is it possible to have this over 3 years, what was, just to get a sense what the acquisition budget has been over the last 3 years versus what was allocated to them, so that we see by the rate at which this ratio has been declining over the last 3 years.
And then, sir, if that can be extrapolated over the medium term, because then we can also see.
Yes. And then exactly. I like the way you are putting it. So that going forward, we see whether the situation improves or not.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Otherwise, we'll have an entity that exists to pay salaries.
Exactly.
Only, And then the last point from me, it's on the recommendation where we ask DOD write to the minister to finalize something around the audit. What is that? Of IPs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want us to write to the board so that we're very firm on this one. I know the minister is at the apex, but let's deal with the board so that we get the board to account.
Sorry, Chair, just to the board or to the minister and the board?
Let's do it to the board. I don't know, and the board now is an accounting. Remember, the board is an accounting authority.
Yes.
Is this Denel or omscore board? Who are we asking?
The problem, Chair, is the way I understood it was with the NEL. The omscore is very intent on finalizing this audit, but the problem is that the NEL itself. So the way it's structured here is to get the NEL to get their house in order to assist omscore, basically.
Chairperson, you will recall where Wilhelm mentioned the observations where omscore has reported that they are finding it difficult because staff is not at the NEL due to the financial constraints and the inabilities to pay salaries. That there are no NEL staff to assist them to do the proper IP audit. So obviously, we're working with omscore, but the NEL's board will have to take responsibility and make sure that omscore can get access.
Okay, so we're actually putting this on the door of the board of Denel, on the doorsteps of Denel board.
Yes, Chair. I think that.
Are you fine with that? All right. So we'll write to the board and ask them to intervene. Yes, sir.
Just keep in mind the shareholder of the NEL board, and that is Department of Public Enterprises on behalf of government.
Yes, but in this case, let's address it to the board. It's only when we hit the wall that we'll write to the shareholder.
I support that 100%.
Support that. All right, colleagues, I think with all these amendments, let me just check who else wanted to have a say. Mr. Mare has moved and Mutle supported. Any objection?
Gone.
Thank you very much for a wonderful job. I share the words of comment. No man, I'm looking for the right word. I share the sentiments expressed by Mr. Mare on the quality of the work you two placed on the table. Thank you very much. Now let's quickly go to what DMV. Is it DMV that is coming up now?
Okay. Yes, Chair.
Thank you.
Can you see the presentation, Chair?
Yes, I can see it.
Chair, members, I'm going to do vote 26 DMV. And as members would be aware, we presented it to the committee on the 4th. And yesterday, the DMV themselves presented their APP as well as the budget. So, Chair, with your permission, I'm not going to cover each and every section. I'll just go briefly through them and then try to focus on the observations and the recommendation. Chair, they're basically just the mandate of the committee in 1.1. 1.2, just the process did be followed. And 2, there's just a forward of the minister. She made a few remarks that I think is important. Firstly, the impact of COVID on especially the military veterans and the need then to expedite, their health care. The next one is about intergovernmental relations, basically because the department is not the final deliverer of the benefits. They need other departments and then also the provincial governments and municipalities to assist them. The next one is something that's going to be very important for the DMV this year is the presidential task team on military veterans. And there we're just saying there that the minister has stressed the implementation of these issues will be one of the important activities for this financial year. Another issue he mentioned was the vacancies, concerned about the appointment of the Director General. It needs to be finalized, as well as two vacant DDG posts. Chair, then next we just briefly cover there the mandate of the department, the main objective, and then we start talking about the contribution to the NDP, the medium-term strategic framework, as well as the executive authorities' priorities. So there, Chair, on the next page, just there in the middle column, there we relate all the various issues that they are actually delivering with regards to the NDP 2020, 2030, and then on the right-hand side is just then the translation into 5-year programs, and then on the left-hand side is the executive authorities' priorities. Chair, and then in paragraph 4, there we just list the committee budget report of last year, and there's about 17 of them, and members are quite aware of those. And then next, in paragraph 5, we start talking about the annual performance plan. Secondly, 5.1, their mandate, the various acts relevant to the department. 5.2, the strategic focus. 5.21 is a situation analysis, and then it's the external environment. And there on top of page 5, I think, there we're just talking about the various challenges that they are experiencing, and this is something that will come out later as well. And the first one is deficiency of the legislative, regulatory, and policy regime, the deviation from coordination and facilitation in line with the service delivery model. Services are not decentralized, the budget cut, the organizational structure, dependencies on other functional departments in service delivery, and then the impact of COVID-19. The next, we're just talking there about the internal environment and some of the challenges they're having there with COVID. 5.3 is just how they plan to measure their performance. 5.31 is the institutional performance information. And something very important is 5.3.2 is the key risk mitigations. Chair, there you can see at the bottom of page 6, basically the various risks that they have, around 6 of them, and all of them later on, members will note, they are basically then captured in the observations as well as in the recommendations. Next year, paragraph 6 is just the programs, and there we list in 6.1 the programs and sub-programs, an overview in 6.1.1. Just saying there that currently the budget allocated to the department is about 654.4 million rand. It will increase to 663 the next financial, and after that it will increase. I think it will basically remain the same with the exclusion of that 400,000 rand there. Chair, next, just to indicate briefly how the budget is actually split up between the 3 main programs, and they will note that the program 2, which is the main service delivery program, and it's basically responsible for 8.
Peter,
sir,
you'll also need to do the same.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, to have a column.
Extra column.
Yes, an extra column, because now it looks as though they received a hefty increase, when in actual fact they had to take a cut during adjustment.
Yeah. I made mention of that, Chair, where we note that they about 137 million rand was taken from the budget. But Chair, I will do similar as Viljalom, include another column just to indicate how the budget, from the allocated budget last year.
In other words, you say budget. Original budget, adjusted budget.
Yes.
And then you go, when you deal with 2021, you simply say original budget.
Original budget.
Yeah, so that it's clear when we make a comparison that is the original budget to original budget.
Thank you, Chair.
Sure.
Chair, and then in the next column there, we basically just saying, how the various programs have either achieved an increase or decrease, and that is in real percent in the last column. There we note that the program 2 around 55.35%, the percentage change. Also, program 3 about 28%, and a decrease in program 1. There, Chair, as with the other 2 problems that follow, we'll just firstly list the various targets as was explained last night, and then we'll look at the budgetary allocation. 6.1.3 as program 2, the socioeconomic support, its purpose and performance targets. There's the budget allocation. 6.1 form is just program 3, empowerment stakeholder. First the performance targets and then the budget allocation. And then, Chair, one of the issues that we are all concerned about is the human resources within the department. And I think that table speaks for itself, Chair. There we can see in 2021, they had about 144 permanent employees. That is down to around 128. Contract workers increased or decreased by 2, and the vacancies, there's a huge increase from around from 26 to 43, around 17 more vacancies. And we also make an observation around that. Interns also decreased from 28 to 14, and then we can see there in the last column just how the totals look. Chair, for the important part for this meeting is the observations that the committee has made. So the first one, Chair, is with regards to the presidential task team on military veterans. And one of the questions that was asked, whether this intervention is basically a carryover of the DMV's incompetence, because it seems as if they're going to replicate, the work of the DMV. And it says that although the response was that the intervention by the presidency was due to complaints from individual military veterans and military veterans associations, this does not absolve the department of its responsibilities, and the minister still has to account for the department. So that is the first observation there on page 11. The second observation, it was observed that different responses regarding the existence, functionality, and staffing of provincial officers have been presented to the committee recently. While the department was instructed to submit a list with information on provincial officers by noon the next day, that is today, clarity was still sought on the location and functionality of all provincial officers. This also relates to the office in the Western Cape, given that there was an awareness of the DMV office in Cape Town. Members would be aware that Brian has distributed the list or the responses actually of the provincial officers. They did distribute it to us all via email earlier. And then 3, it was noted that some of the challenges besetting the DMV and part of the reasons for its continued performance was the issue of relevant competencies and qualifications. And the committee wanted to know whether there is any progress in this regard. The response was that all employees have the relevant qualifications, and the problem relates more to the organizational culture and the spirit of teamwork that are missing. The accounting officer felt that the appointment of a new DG for 5 years can build appropriate organizational culture and spirit. Therefore, the inadequate legislative, regulatory, and policy risks were noted as long outstanding risks, and the committee wanted to know what is being done to expedite this process. 5, it was once again pointed out that certain officials in the department respond to queries by military veterans to referring them to the relevant official in writing. Besides this taking time and anticipating the circumstances of the relevant military veteran, it speaks of an indifference as the official should direct the inquiry to his counterpart in the department directly. 6, the committee observed that it should be clarified why certain targets have been decreased and others should be set higher, such as the target for an unqualified audit opinion, which should be amended to a clean audit opinion. This against the background that even when sufficient funds were allocated to the department, it still underperformed and failed to meet all its targets. And 7, it was pointed out that DMV might have various excellent policies, but if these are not funded by National Treasury, it will lead to underperformance and a concomitant frustration for military veterans. And 8, members inquired whether DV is taking advice from both former non-statutory and statutory forces on the acknowledgement of previous services, for instance, with the awarding of medals. 9, the department was requested to outline the timeframes for filling of vacancies, and it responded with details of the post of the DG, which they said there has been to cabinet. It came back to them, they made corrections, so they hope that within a month or so the permanent DG will be appointed. The 2 vacant Deputy Director General posts, as well as the other vacancies. This against the background of the high unemployment rate in the country, as well as the challenges by the COVID-19 pandemic. And in the last one there, the committee observed that the department often refers to the strengthening of relationships with sister departments, but have never provided specific information on how this will be achieved. And then the relevant recommendations to that is the first one there. The committee agreed that since it did not receive any official report under Presidential Task Team, the DMV should, at its next engagement with the committee, provide a detailed report on its interaction with the task team and what is exactly expected from the DMV. And then 2, the DMV should provide the committee with a report on all provincial officers, including its location, functionality, the staff, and their qualification levels by the end of June 2021. In addition, the committee requires an indication of the timeline for finalizing all provincial officers. We became aware that there's no officers, physical offices in KZN, Gauteng, as well as in Limpopo. So this is a really important issue for access of military veterans to the DMV. Then 3, the committee agreed that the DMV should address the organizational culture and the lack of a spirit of teamwork, and going forward should on a regular basis provide progress in this regard, especially if the new DG is being appointed. And then 4, it was recommended that the DMV should address the inadequate legislative and policy risk as a matter of urgency, as it is central to addressing various other challenges to effectively deliver benefits to military veterans and their dependents. And then 5, the committee recommends that the department should provide it with the names, title, and contact details of all senior officials in order to allow members to direct their queries from military veterans to the relevant section branch speedily. It was also recommended that the DMV should provide the committee with a report on how the targets were determined, the specific reasons for the adjustments, and specifically whether these were adjusted in line with the allocated budget for 2021 financial year by the end of June 2021. And then 7, the department was encouraged to state upfront whether the various policies are appropriately funded by National Treasury. Otherwise, it will defeat the purpose if these are not funded or are being underfunded. And next, the department should in writing provide the committee with time frame for filling all vacancies, as well as whether it intends to acknowledge previous service from both former non-statutory forces and statutory force members. And lastly, the committee recommends that the department should provide it with specific information on how it plans to strengthen the relationship with sister departments, given that this issue has been consistently raised since the advent of the 6th Parliament. Thank you, Chair. That is my input.
Okay, comments. Let me start. Let's go to the observations. Observations, yeah. You see, find a way of crafting observation 1. You know, the second sentence, it inquired whether the intervention was due to a carryover of, above, carryover of incompetence, as it is clear that the activities of the PPT replicate the work of the DMV. We don't have the information as yet until the PTT appears before us. And two, even if it was so, it's driven from the presidency. It would be care limiting for me to say that. Find a better formulation. Do you get the point, Peter?
Yes, Chair. I've got it.
You got it, eh?
Yes, now I'll improve on that, Chair.
Please do. All right. Again, then the second point.
Chairperson, Peter can always use that, things like there's a perception that this is the case.
Well, let's not even go there. Find a better formulation that yeah, I'm sure you will find
yes.
So, but we know what we all know what we want to say, what you say happening, and then on the qualifications, you see, we said they have the relevant. I mean, that's what they tell us: relevant competencies and their qualifications. You see, by law, all departments are expected to verify qualifications with SAQA, the South African Qualification Authority, within 2 or 3 months of appointing, of appointment. Now, it's one thing to say, I'm not too sure to what extent they must do that by law, and must we not ask for evidence that all SMS, had their qualifications verified by SAQA, or we ask for a report on the extent to which they were verified. I don't know how we put it. Maybe whether all the SMS qualifications of SMS members were in fact verified with SAQA. Something along those lines.
Chair, if I may come in, Chair. Remember the whole issue around the skills audit, the process that they went in, and that is because some people believe, that there are enough competencies within the department. People are there, they have the qualifications, but maybe they don't have the necessary competencies or the experience. So I think maybe we should frame it around that, Chair, and not necessarily focus on qualifications. But whether that gap of experience and competencies has been addressed. Because remember, Chair, they were saying they were going to send people for training and reskilling and things like that.
Yeah, but this one is specific, whether they've done so, whether that has been verified, whether the qualifications have been verified. I understand when it comes to competencies, skills, and so on, but qualifications, when you claim a qualification, it's the department must verify those qualifications with the relevant qualification authority.
Okay, got it, Chair.
You got it. Yeah. I want us to monitor that so that we don't take the claims, but we ask them to, tell us, indicate whether that has been verified. Then we go to the second, go to recommendations. Recommendations 1, the top one. The committee accredited since it adoption that is provided. Okay, that's fine. All right. So I am happy. Colleagues, are there any hands? It doesn't look like there is any hand. Oh, Maliake.
Oh, young bonus star.
Yes, I do see you, sir.
Yeah. No, Chairperson, I think the presentation is reflecting what we requested to be in a report yesterday. But I think one must appreciate the way they've tried to put all our contribution. But Chairperson, I don't know whether it will be much when it comes to the issue of location of provincial offices, because now it says there they must give us the location, sort of like where to find them. But there's nothing that says of like the physical address, because if you say in East London, it's just East London. But if you want to refer a person, say you go, the offices are on street number so and so. I don't know, Chairperson, whether it would be too much if we include that they must also, when they give us the information with regard to those offices, they also provide the physical address so that it will be easy to refer all the military veterans. I'm just checking, Chairperson, if that can help.
Yes, let me just check with Peter. Peter said they've furnished us with this information, have they?
Yes, Chair.
Does it have physical addresses and all?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay, this is the information. Let me just look at it. Just go down. Where are you now? I thought you were giving us the information.
Oh, you want the information, Chair? Okay, let me just stop that, Chair.
So that we check if we still need more information from them.
Can you see it, Chair?
Yes. Okay, just stay there. This is the information, Shelembe. Do you still need more?
I think Chairperson, that is enough.
I think we now have the information. All right. Okay, let's go back to the resolution, to the recommendation. All right, Shelembe, what? Just look at the recommendation and then tell me if we still need to brush it up a bit. It's location, and let's leave it at that. Leave it broad for now, because we already have the information. Okay. Shelembe, are you still with me?
Yeah, no, I'm fine now. I'm fine.
You are fine, because we now have the information. Yeah. Okay, fine. All right. Any other thing, Shelembe? I'm sorry that I've interrupted you.
Yeah, Chairperson, I don't know whether it is early, because what I'm seeing here on our recommendation is that there are no time frames. I don't know how we're going to do it, because say these vacancies must be filled as a matter of urgency. They must come and tell us. But it's something that we say as a matter of urgency. I'm worried about the time frames, whether this cannot be emphasized here. There's nothing that says all vacancies must be filled as a matter of urgency. What is a matter of urgency? There are no clear time frames. I don't know how we're going to deal with that. Say maybe after 10 months. Now, how are you going to argue if those vacancies have not been filled up?
No, I think what we're asking, what we're saying here, Shelembe, we are in fact asking them to furnish us with the timeframes for filling these vacancies. And we'll then, if we think the time frame is not reasonable, we'll take it up with them there and then when they produce the information.
And then I'm covered, Chairperson. Then I'm covered.
Yeah, because it will be difficult for us to give them the time frame Imagine when they started talking about the filling of the DG post since 2019, but even up to date. Huh?
You see, Chairperson, if you look at the issue of filling the vacancy of the DG, it's more than 3 years now or 4 years.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So you're happy with it, with us leaving this. We'll look at the timeframes that they produce in terms of its reasonableness. All right.
Sure. Thank you, Chairperson.
Any other comment? And Shelembe moves. Any seconder?
I second, Chair.
Ms. Becker seconds. Thank you very much, colleagues. And I think once again we thank you for for this work, quality stuff. Let's go to the minutes. Peter, please, when you finalize the agenda for the Joint Standing Committee tomorrow, please add a letter from Mare. What was it on, by the way? It was on the... Okay, we'll talk about it. Please remind me about his letter. That must be on the agenda.
Was that the letter on the proposed visits or oversight visits or study tours?
No. The one that relates to South African Air Force.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Or the that internal letter that came out
Exactly.
about the NEL.
And the request that you're making.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes.
I thought that it was decided that those will be discussed in the closed session. Remember, there were 3 issues, Chair, that we said we would like to discuss with the minister in a closed session. And that was one of the issues with regards to the NEL and their support.
You are correct. Okay. No, it's fine. We'll leave it for that engagement. All right, thanks. Minutes, 5 May 2021. We're dealing with the DOD annual plan. Oh, it's just a recent one. Okay, just go down. This is the attendance register. Complete. Yeah, then these are the remarks by the minister. On page 2, we're just for correction. What page now is page 4 for correction. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Is Brian in the meeting? All right.
Yes, Chair.
Oh, you're in the meeting.
Yes, that's correct.
The comments we made in relation to when we were dealing with the observations and this thing.
That's correct, Chair.
I think they become relevant to this minutes as well, not so?
In as far as the budgets, Chair.
In as far as the budget, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you'll see what you need to pick up and add to these minutes. So we'll adopt these minutes subject to that.
All right, Chair.
Okay.
So we'll need to synchronize with the report.
Has to synchronize, that's a word, because we'll use these minutes to do a follow-up.
All right, Chair.
Yes, we do use the what you call the report, but in the main we use the minutes.
All right, Chair.
Okay. All right, colleagues, any mover? There being no correction to be effected. Modisa moves.
I will second, sir. I will second.
Seconds. Thank you very much.
Hey, Modisa.
Wenzeni?
Awu kodwa Shelembe ngenzeni?
Sure. And then 4th May 2021. Okay, we're dealing with the adoption of our second term, our annual report, our strat plan, and the analysis of the budget. Okay, first page, attendance. Any correction? Second page. Third page. Fourth page. Okay, thank you. All right. So colleagues, there being no correction, any mover? Mr. Mario moves, the Khwasa seconds. Thank you very much. The third set, Brian.
Chair, you are muted.
First page. Right, done. Correction.
In the meantime, can you write my surname properly, Brian?
Can you look at it?
All right.
Please. My
Can
surname.
you look how it's written? All right. Continue. Okay. Right. Any mover?
Mafanya moves.
Subject to the surname.
Please.
Properly written. Yeah? Thanks. Any seconder?
I second, Chair.
Ms. Speaker seconds. Thank you very much, colleagues. Let's go to the third set, to the fourth set. All right, that's the first page. Okay, go down. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, you're going far back in history now, sir.
Yeah, you see, I can see that. Go down.
This minute is from the previous financial year, so is this still outstanding? Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Brian must then tell us how many minutes are still outstanding from this year.
Chair, this is the last one.
I'm here.
We only had 2 that were now outstanding that we've done now.
All right. Okay. Colleagues, any mover?
I so move.
Mr. Murray moves, seconded.
Modisa second.
Modisa seconds. Thank you very much. Any other?
No, Chair, we are done.
Are we at the end of the agenda?
That is correct, Chair.
Oh, okay. Colleagues, thank you very much for your time. And we're able to finish much earlier today. It's thanks to the support team for putting quality work on the table. With those, thank you very much, colleagues.
I just wanted to support you in that. I mean, our staff is outstanding, and I think we are, as a committee, we are probably in a very, very privileged position that we've got quality people that work with us, and that makes it so much easier to go through this. Really, this is this is really it's very special to me, and I mean I appreciate that very, very much.
Thank you very much. I associate myself with that. I'm sure the committee as well. Colleagues, thank you very much. The meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much, Thabo, once again for holding the fort.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Good.
You're welcome, Chair. Thank you and good night.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.